This is another iRaw podcast.
Welcome to Wildly Unplug. I'm your guide, Lauren, and we're taking a little bit of a summer break. Don't worry, I'm still going to have episodes, hopefully every week, definitely every other week, where I will be doing the Wildly Rejected updates. But as far as interviews, those are going to be coming back in August, and I have to tell you guys, I have a pretty awesome lineup coming up. So stay tuned. More awesome interviews with some amazing people coming soon. But in the meantime, welcome back to Wildly Rejected, aka Becoming the Bison. If you're new here, the idea behind the challenge is simple. Instead of running away from rejection, I'm heading straight into the storm like a bison. Because the quickest way through, or I guess the quickest way to deal with it is through it. We're facing our fears head on, is what I'm trying to say. The goal is 1,000 rejections inspired by Gabby Carr's challenge. And since there are a bunch of no's, we're going to expect a couple yeses every once in a while, some unexpected opportunities, and lessons, believe you me, I would have never found otherwise. If week 14 was about learning that rejection can steer you into the right direction, week 15 is about trusting the detour. So let's start with what can only be described as the Bronco saga. Last week I told you about how I was buying a vehicle and it somehow turned into its own rejection challenge. I found out that the one that I really liked, it had aftermarket tires and it rubbed against the wheel, and the dealership was just like, well, just don't turn that hard. And I was not willing to accept that answer. And inspired by the rejection challenge, I asked if they could return the vehicle to the factory setup. The answer was no, with an LOL attached to the end of the text, which did not make me very happy. So for a little while, I did consider buying it anyway. I had already invested so much time into researching it, negotiating, and imagining it as my vehicle. Walking away from it just felt like starting over. But since this rejection challenge, it's been teaching me that sometimes you can invest time in something and it doesn't mean it's always the right choice. And I kept looking, and ironically, it did steer me to find another Bronco, which fits me even better. And actually, I am sitting in it right now. It has fewer miles than the other one I was looking at, less cost, and it was much closer to what I was originally hoping to find. It didn't have as many bells and whistles and things that I know I just wouldn't be using. So this rejection challenge taught me some other unexpected lessons. Yep, Bronco number 2 came with its own rejection challenge. And it started with a smell. Can't you smell that smell? Almost immediately, I noticed the Bronco had a strange, sickeningly sweet odor. It almost smelled like cat litter. Like very perfumey, but you can tell there's something nasty underneath. And what was even stranger is that there were 7 air freshener scent discs hidden throughout the vehicle. 7. And I'm kind of kicking myself because I was even standing at the back passenger door with it open, and I mentioned to the salesperson while we were standing there that it smelled. And I should have trusted my gut. I really should have. And there was even some scent discs tucked over in that area too. And I thought it was odd. And then I kind of brushed it off and I gaslit myself. And I was like, well, maybe that's just something that they do at this car dealership for all the cars. And it wasn't until I got home that I figured out they were actually trying to cover something up. Hidden underneath the rear seat was dried vomit. When I tell you that I had a pit in my stomach and I feared I had made one of the worst mistakes that I have in years, it would have been an understatement. I spiraled and desperately missed my old blue Wrangler. When I contacted the dealership, their first solution was for me to drive the Bronco all the way back to Fort Knox so they could detail it. That would have meant another 5 hours of driving, plus however long it took for them to detail. A full day lost because of a problem that existed before I ever owned the vehicle. Now, old Lauren would have apologized for bothering them, accepted the inconvenience, and made the trip. just grateful that the smell was going to be taken care of. Instead, I asked if they could simply cover the cost of having it professionally detailed here in Cincinnati, and after some back and forth, they finally agreed. The detail shop, Crehan Car Care, spent nearly 6 hours steam cleaning the carpets. I believe he ended up doing it 4 times. Shampooed the upholstery, treating the odor, performing an ozone treatment. I highly, highly, highly recommend Crehan Car Care. They did an excellent job. And then I even went as far as replacing the air filter behind the glove compartment. So I had to learn how to do that just to hopefully eliminate every possible source of the smell. And thankfully, after all of that, the odor is finally gone. Also, my husband sent me an odor eater, and I was very skeptical if this thing would work. It had like a sponge and a little packet, and you stuck half of the packet kind of through the sponge, and it was in this little plastic clamshell. I was very skeptical of this thing, and it literally removed any other slight trace of the odor. So I was finally starting to get happy with it, and then another issue appeared. The Bronco has been averaging about 15 miles per gallon, and that might not sound like a big deal, but it mattered to me because I already walked away from the first Bronco that, you know the one, just don't turn so hard Bronco. That had 17 miles per gallon on average, so that's another reason why I wanted to walk away from that one, because I'll be doing a lot of highway driving to see my son in college, and the one that I'm currently in is supposed to get 21 miles per gallon. So seeing that 15 immediately raised some questions, and hello, pit in my stomach again, which sent me down another research rabbit hole. I reset the trip computer, researched fuel economy, started trying to figure out whether the mileage could be improved over time or if something else was causing it altogether. After resetting everything, I am happy to report that we are at 21 miles per hour. Then I had to install a trailer hitch because I have to be able to transport the dogs around. And of course, this wasn't simple either. I went to the first location, sat there for a couple hours, and they were nearly done and they were missing one part. And he asked me if I could follow behind him and drive to another U-Haul location. So after all of that, I now know far more about Broncos than I ever imagined that I would, and I've been way more hands-on with this vehicle than I ever have with the Wrangler, and it's really starting to feel like my car. Now, looking back, though, the Bronco wasn't the real story. The story is realizing how much I've changed. Through this rejection challenge, I've learned that asking questions isn't being difficult. Wanting something fixed isn't complaining, and advocating for yourself does not make you a bad customer. Sometimes you simply have to ask. But, be respectful about it and be nice. So, as exhausting as this Bronco saga has been, it was not the highlight of my week. This week, oh gosh, now I'm going to start to get emotional. This is the last time I'm recording Wildly Unplugged from Ohio. After years of dreaming, planning, packing, and wondering if moving day would ever actually arrive, it's finally here. And before leaving, however, I made one stop that felt important, felt like closure even. I went back to the place where I had spent nearly 17 years working before taking the leap into entrepreneurship in 2020. I never really had the opportunity to say goodbye because I left during the height of COVID. There was no farewell party, no one last day with everyone. I was there one day and then life simply moved on. Well, can we even say that? The world shut down. And then after that, life moved on. Walking through those doors felt surprisingly emotional. It was wonderful seeing the familiar faces again, but the highlight of my visit was my buddy Denver. I had so many wonderful dives with him, and scrubbing the back of his shell was always my favorite thing to do. He is still causing trouble, so some things never change. Standing there watching him swim and causing trouble, I felt something I hadn't expected. Home. It almost felt like I had never left at all. For a moment, I wondered what it would have been like if I never left. And another question, or thought, quickly followed. If everything hadn't happened exactly the way that it did, I probably never would have left. As much as I love that chapter of my life, with as much drama as it held, I don't think that's where I'm meant to stay. I truly believe that God has a different plan for me. For the past year and a half, every time my husband would pick me up at the Key West airport, we'd drive past the Sea Turtle Hospital rescue van that's parked in the airport lot, and every single trip I'd point to it and jokingly say, someday I'm going to drive that van. It seems kind of silly and too far away to even take seriously, but this week I took the first step into maybe making that a reality. I reached out to Save a Sea Turtle, a volunteer organization that closely works with the Sea Turtle Hospital, and asked about volunteer opportunities. They said yes, and hopefully someday soon I'll be a volunteer that is a beach walker helping to monitor sea turtle nests once I complete the next available training. So no, I'm not driving the van yet. I don't even know if that's actually a possibility, but hey, it's fun to dream big. And this is a real big first step in the right direction and doing something that I know I'm truly going to love. Standing beside Denver this week, knowing that I'll soon be helping to protect sea turtle nests in the Florida Keys, felt like life quietly connecting two chapters that once seemed completely separate. And I've had an anthem for my move down to Key West. It's I've Found Me a Home by Jimmy Buffett. And it's a song that he wrote about Key West when he first moved down there, talking about how his bike gets him everywhere he needs to go and none of the streets look the same and just all the little quirks that make Key West amazing. And today, my last night here in Ohio, I decided to drive down my childhood home where I'd lived for nearly 30 years. And that song came on the radio. Like, talk about two chapters quietly connecting. That was another moment. So lots of good things on the horizon. And for the first time in a long time, I'm feeling hopeful. And I can't wait to help Denver's friends. This week's totals, Total S, 151, which means I got a little catching up to do next week. I got to do about 9, but hey, if I don't get to it, that's also okay. Accepted, 38, rejected, 69. I closed out a couple other unanswered emails and requests. And in review, we have 33. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Tune in next week, and until next time, unplug, get outside, and stay wild. Disclaimer: everything discussed on this podcast and blog is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Whether you're trying a new art technique, exploring the outdoors, or taking on your own rejection challenge, please use common sense, follow the laws and safety guidelines, and take responsibility for your own decisions. Stay safe and stay wild.
For more great iRoar podcasts, visit iroarpod.com. That's IROARPOD.com.